if you live in PG&E territory, it's almost at a point where solar is no longer a luxury. It is a basic utility and necessity.
Hi, I'm Angie.
And I'm Yarrow.
And we're a husband and wife duo trying to educate all people on solar, what it is, the terminologies you come across, common issues you come across, and just educating the public one episode at a time. And so today we figured we would go over solar basics. I feel like the term solar gets used quite often, but you don't hear much people defining what exactly that term means and what encompasses all the moving parts of what solar is made up to be. And so I figured we'd go over that today as our first episode. Just go over solar basics so that people can understand when someone says solar, what that includes. Typically, I know there's nuances and different things, but just the common, typical framework for what solar is. So for the first question, I was going to say exactly that. What is solar as a whole, as a general? When you're referring to solar, what exactly are you meaning?
So when someone says solar or going solar or something along those lines, what they mean is installing a solar array on their home or business to offset their utility bills, or in some cases go completely off grid. Some of those components that are in a solar system are most importantly the solar panels. You can't have a solar system without solar panels. The inverters to take that DC power that the solar panels produce, convert it to usable energy that we use in our home called AC power. And there's a couple more pieces in between that can be incorporated in the system, but those two are the basic building blocks of what a solar system is.
Okay. And so you mentioned a couple of the different components. Would you be able to break that down a little bit more, explain the different moving parts that make up a solar system? As a whole, I know a little bit about solar being around you, but I know that we have inverters, we have solar panels, we have ground rods, ground mounts, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. But just go over the basic solar system and what each part does, what its functions are, and what it has to do with solar as a whole.
So the most basic building block, as mentioned earlier, is the solar panel itself, or photovoltaic module. What it does is it creates energy from sunlight. When the sunlight hits the panel, there's a process that happens inside the solar cells of the solar module that it creates a voltage, and then as a collection, those solar panels create power or wattage, which then gets transferred over to the inverter. The inverter's job is to then take that power that's produced by the solar panels and convert it to usable power in your home.
Okay. That explains, I think, the general aspects of what a solar system is. Now, I wanted to go over common solar terminology that we would come across if I was a new homeowner or I was a homeowner and I'm looking to get a solar system done. I know there's a lot of terminology that is typically used with the word solar, and so I just wanted to not provide definitions, but provide context so that when I do decide, or someone goes and decides to have a solar system and they're seeing these verbiages, these words, they're able to be familiar with the context and what they kind of mean. So I know specific ones, some, I'll get you started, but you do the rest. So I know number one, really confusing one that a lot of people don't understand is a true up bill. I remember when we got our solar system, I was very confused with that, and you had to explain it to me multiple times until I somewhat understood what it is. And I think NEM 2, NEM 3, that was a very common thing that I come across when I'm looking through people's solar questions. So true up bill, NEM 2 or 3, kilowatts, and That's the three specifically that I continuously see confusion around.
Okay. So the NEM, or as you said, NEM, it's, net energy metering. It's a program through the utility where they buy back the excess power that your system produces. Depending on when you installed the system, you're under NEM 1.0, 2.0, or 3.0. 3.0 is the current and newest net energy metering model that the utility goes by. If you have an older system, then you would fall under the older NEM 2.0, and if you have a much older system, you'd fall under the NEM 1.0 rules. What that does is it changes the buyback rate that the utility gives you for your excess power. Now, since we're talking about power is measured in kilowatts. That's the way the utility measures it. It takes energy and converts it to a number, a readable and usable number for billing or for determining how much power is actually used. And what was the third one you mentioned?
The third one was the true-up bill.
The true-up bill. So when you go solar, I know in PG&E territory, you no longer get a monthly bill, so to speak. What happens is it becomes an annual bill or annual true-up. So at the end of the year, they tally up how much you bought from them, how much you sold to them, and they kind of take the difference and they either bill you or give you a credit towards your next billing cycle, which is the next year. I know in SMUD territory, they give you the option to either stay with a monthly bill and have that true-up happen monthly or annually.
So just to clarify, we are in the greater Sacramento region in California. Do these terms, NEM 2 and 3 and true-up bill, do they apply nationwide, or is this specifically a California program? Do you know?
So other states do have their own versions of this. The ones we're talking about are specific to California and more specifically the utility companies that are within California.
Okay. Can you think of any other terminologies that you have come across when you talk to people about solar that people are somewhat confused over, or something that you find yourself explaining over and over again that is very confusing to people?
System racking. So system racking is the method of attaching the solar panels either to your roof or putting them on a structure that is on the ground, which we call a ground mount. The racking is simply the equipment used to secure the panels to the supporting structure.
To end this episode, I wanted to ask you, what is the one thing you would like everyone to know about solar?
If you live in PG&E territory, it's almost at a point where solar is no longer a luxury. It is a basic utility and necessity. Okay.
And do you have any unique perspectives, since you're an installer, designer, and you're a designer, installer, and troubleshooter, but you're also a homeowner who has a solar system? Is there any unique perspectives that you have being on both ends?
Well, there's the more premium and there's the cheaper solar systems. With the cheaper solar system, you'll have lower upfront costs, less money to get into it. But what you'll run into is lower warranties, lower capabilities of the product itself. With the more premium systems, there's a higher upfront cost, but I could tell you with confidence that I don't have to check my system every day. I don't even have to check it every month. I know the system that I have in my house is going to work, and it's going to work for a long time. Even if a piece does fail, there are so many redundancies in the system that I have in my house that I can lose 10% of my power potentially, but that's basically it before I catch it. Other systems that are more string inverter based, not microinverter based, once that inverter goes out, your system's down. And until you notice it, it's not just a small part of your system that's down, it's the whole thing.
I think that wraps up. You just, as you talk, you give me more questions to ask you in the future. So I think that wraps up our first episode. I think that generally breaks down the solar basics, what exactly we are talking about when we're talking about solar, what we mean when we say solar, and hopefully this is helpful to you guys as an audience. And feel free to submit any questions you have specifically about solar, and that me and Yarrow, well, not me, Yarrow's the big brains, will be happy to answer. All right, have a good day.